Hi, I'm Tom Stephenson and welcome to Construction Project Management Tips. Today we're going to be talking about the work breakdown structure. We're going to give a definition of the work breakdown structure, and in particular we're going to show you how it could be used in construction project. Work breakdown structure defined. PMI, Project Management Institute, part of PMP, defines work breakdown structure as a hierarchical decomposition of the total scope of work to be carried out by the project team to accomplish the project objectives and create the required deliverables. So in the construction projects, we have a really hard time of not missing things, and we want to make sure that we're encompassing the total scope of work. Well, a work breakdown structure helps you to ensure that you're not missing any areas of work by categorizing it. It's like an organizational chart where you break things up into areas of work. And that can be very, very helpful, as you'll see. That helps to ensure that you don't miss areas of work, that identifies areas that you need to ensure that you're covering off in your planning processes, that you're engaging people that maybe know a lot more about those areas than you possibly could know. It also allows you to track costs. You can track costs and apply costs according to your schedule of values and develop your schedule of values from that. It can be very useful for cost control, construction cost monitoring, and for defining your schedule requirements. So I have a little bit of a applied example that we can use here. So the work breakdown structure can appear as follows. So at the highest level, you have the project. So that would be the highest level, is the overall project. And generally speaking, we use scheduling software so that we can incorporate all of this information in a very logical and accessible way. So we have this whole project of which we have to understand what the complete scope of work is, what our budget is for the project, and be able to tie the time and cost elements together so that we can ensure that we can set something up that we can track very carefully. All right, so we have the project at the highest level. Then we have the specific disciplines of the whole project. So very common in construction projects to break it down something like this. We have pre-construction, we have construction early works, construction phases, project closeout, post-construction services. So at the next level, makes a lot of sense. Underneath the overall project, we've got the things that we do when we're planning for the construction. We've got certain things that we maybe want to do ahead of time before we actually mobilize on site. And then there's the construction phases, which may involve a number of different areas of work underneath it. And some projects can be even more complex, and they can have different phases to projects, and again, much more levels of detail underneath those. Then, if we take a look at construction phases as an example, we could look under construction phases, which would be C, and we could think, okay, well, under construction phases for this particular building, we've got the superstructure. So I don't know if it's structural steel, if it's, you name it, if it's there, then that might be it. The superstructure, I should have substructure there. I don't see it, but I should have substructure, superstructure, building envelope, building systems, interior finishes, exterior grade, and landscaping. All right, that would be the next example under construction phases. As I said, you have to forgive that. I would have substructure underneath there. So then basically under substructure, I would have, there you go. Under substructure, I would have, it must have got deleted, excavation, footings, foundation walls, slab on grade, P1, P2. So whatever your building would have, that would be categories of work that you would want to cover under that. You could have your substructure items. You know, if you don't have underground parking, you wouldn't list it, right? So it's whatever is unique to your project that would come into those elements. And then let's take a look at slab on grade. So let's say slab on grade is what we're dealing with. Under slab on grade, maybe it's a really big slab on grade. So maybe you're going to have a slab on grade east side and a slab on grade west side. So you broke it down into two areas because that's going to be how you plan to do your pours and that's how you plan to organize work under those particular areas. And if that makes a lot of sense to you, then that's how you could break it down for that particular project. Now at the lowest level, so if we took slab on grade, whichever side we took, so in this case we took the east side, we could then break that down into our activity level. So at the activity level, that's at the lowest level. Now we can assign cost to that level, and we can assign the costs and the time and the resources, of course. So at that lowest level, it's not really part of the overall structure of headings. It's actually the doing of the work. All right, so you should think of that as the actual execution of the work at the activity level. That's where we link activities to activities, and we develop a critical path. But the work breakdown structure, it's just housing the activities underneath it. So we shouldn't be linking activities to headings. We should be linking activities to activities from that perspective. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of how that breaks down. Now, if we looked at it, say, in a scheduling software, and so in construction, we're going to be using likely one of two scheduling softwares. We're either going to be using MS Project or Primavera P6 for our scheduling software. When we talk about work breakdown structures, they basically look the same. So these are the same projects that I just put into either or. At the highest level, as I said, we've got this project here. So that would be this particular 250 King Street project. And then at the next level is what I mentioned back here when I said that we have it broken down into specific disciplines: pre-construction, construction, construction phases, project closeout, post-construction services. And you see how they all line up here. So if we follow that all the way down, you'll see that there's those 5 areas there. And you see the little plus and minus signs. It's very much like the file hierarchy system in Explorer. If you want, you can open it up, or you can roll it down or roll it back up. Helps if you've got several thousand activities in your project and you don't want to have them all shown at the same time. So in that next instance, I have the construction phases open. And remember, we said substructure, which I was missing on the previous slide, superstructure, building envelope, building systems, interior finishes, exterior grade. Then under substructure, we've got excavation, footings, foundation slab, slab on grade. And then I've got slab on grade east side, slab on grade west side. And you can see how they line up. And then you've got all the activities listed underneath. So you can see if you break this down, then you can start really diving into that and making sure that you've allocated time periods for the activities to be done. Now, even these get broken down into a lot more detail, but you may be using your short-term planning and your look-aheads, your 6-week look-aheads. If you do lean type projects, you may be doing pull planning, and this may be part of your overall master project schedule that you've developed very early on in the project process. It can be done in a number of different ways, but the purpose of this video is just to give you a good understanding of the work breakdown structure. You can also see how they're categorized and they're numbered based on the order that I put them in and the level of the hierarchy that they're at. So you got 1, and then you got 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5. That's those 5 headings. And then when you break it down below, it has the next level. And then when you're getting really down, it's got a number of levels down on it. So that's that breakdown. Now, as I said earlier, you can also assign account codes and you can assign costs to help track the information. Then you can look at it not only at the very sort of granular level of the activity, but then you can also look at your costs and how you're performing rolled up at different intermediate levels of work. Because sometimes too granular, it might be too granular for you to see how you're actually doing overall, and you want to roll it up to different levels of headings to monitor what's going on. And then you can always dive deep to the lowest level if you've got it assigned that way, the costing. And as I mentioned, what doesn't really matter the scheduling software you use. It's really just the technique of project management. Any scheduling software will have some sort of process where you can have the different levels and you can break it down into deeper and deeper levels. And one of the things with the WBS is it's trying to help ensure that you have 100% of the project covered or encapsulated under that work breakdown structure. Nothing is worse than missing a whole area of work. And this can act as a checklist to help you ensure that you don't miss major elements of work. Now, not only can activities be housed, you're going to have your milestones within there. For example, I could go back here and removal of forms. If I had the completion of this area of work, I might want to have a milestone underneath that. And I could have a milestone that I could be tracking on my project as well. It wouldn't be part of the hierarchical list of the work breakdown structure, but it's incorporated and housed under different levels. I'll save milestones for another day because that's another whole discussion onto itself. So you could have, as a company, a template. And, you know, like I said, these are pretty standard, normal sort of headings in construction. Pre-construction, construction, early work, utility relocations. Maybe there's some demolition you have to do prior to, earthwork, etc. And then you got the construction where you're setting up on site. And this would have a whole bunch of items underneath it, right? Again, project closeout, test and commissioning, lead certification. Maybe it's a lead building. If it doesn't have that, you wouldn't include it. But you could have a standard sort of listing for your projects that you follow. And you could even adjust that based on the types of projects that you do. You know, if you do condominium buildings or if you do community centers or different types of project, you could sort of lay out very standard WBS as a starting point. It's almost like a checklist that's ensuring that you've got these upper categories that you can break the work down into further detail. Because you could take that template that I had on the previous page, and then you could, under pre-construction, have a whole bunch of headings. Under construction, early work, you could have headings. Here, construction is going to have a lot of headings, right? And then yellow and the green, you can see then this would be subheadings that would come under site mobilization and so forth. You know, for different floors on the superstructure, on the parking. Of course, you're not going to have those floors if they're not part of the project, but you can incorporate them. So you got a system to lay out your projects by, and it helps to ensure if everybody sort of follows that system, it's almost like the master format specification where you get used to what you need to find and where you need to find it. And especially if you're starting to plan and map out a project, it helps make that coordination that much easier. And again, you may not have, you know, precast and exterior insulated finish systems on your building. Maybe it's curtain walls instead. So then you'd exclude those. You just wouldn't use them. But it does give you a pretty good way of breaking down your project and following it through from that perspective. So work breakdown structure, it helps to ensure that you don't miss stuff. It should encapsulate the whole scope for the project, and it can act as a checklist. It can help you to track costs and manage your projects more effectively. But just remember, it's not part of my activities. The activities are at the lowest level where I assign a resource. I don't assign a resource to the heading. I assign the resources to the activities. That way I have accountabilities and responsibilities in place. So I'm Tom Stephenson, hoping that helped clarify what a work breakdown structure is. And if you enjoyed this video, please click subscribe and the notifications icon so we can help build this community together. Also, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave them in the comments, and I'll do my best to get back to you. So have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.